All right. Welcome to the premiere episode of my new MMA analysis show, where I plan to be talking about fights, particularly from the UFC, but I may cover events from smaller organizations as well, or some grappling things that I think are fun and stand out to me. But for this episode, we have the fight night coming up, Garbrandt versus Font, which is coming up Saturday, currently Thursday where I'm at. But yeah, let's chomp into this main event. I think that's going to be the most interesting part of the card. Font versus Garbrandt. We have Garbrandt coming off his first win after a bit of a slide after those Dillashaw fights. And we have Font, who's been kind of on a tear for a bit here. Had a very convincing win over Moraes. Even though I would say Moraes was probably still a bit... I don't know. I don't think his chin was all the way there from his last fight. I think he got back in there too quick. And you're fighting someone with heavy hands. You don't want to be doing that. You want to make sure you're giving your brain good rest. So I think he paid the consequences of that, not to take away from Font's performance. But I think this will be a very compelling matchup here. I think Font can pose some issues to Garbrandt that other fighters have not been able to do. Because he's pretty, I think he is longer than a lot of the other fighters that Garbrandt has faced, and he definitely has to be one of the better boxers, like pure technical kind of boxing boxer. Because Font has pretty good striking. He has very good straight shots. He's good at throwing feints. He's very aggressive too. He assumes the middle of the cage and starts pushing back on his opponents quite often. Let me grab some water. But, yeah, he assumes the cage, pushes back on his opponents, and he starts putting that jab on them, starts feinting, gets them reacting, and he's got a very thunderous right hand. I think he fights orthodox most often, but he switches stances as well. So that's another thing that could play into it. While I do say that, I think Font is a bit slower with the hands than Garbrandt. Not that Font is slow to say, but Garbrandt is just a very explosive fighter. And especially like in close, I think Garbrandt could throw out combinations much quicker than Font can. And can catch him lacking while he's, maybe throwing one, coming in for his second punch. I could see Garbrandt being able to throw 3, maybe 4 before that second punch even gets to him, Out at the distance, though, I see Font... I think I can see him having good success. Haven't seen Garbrandt use that jab a lot in his more recent fights. Throws the good calf kick. And he's obviously waiting. He counters really well with that backhand of his, and he's a very heavy hitter. And, as we saw in his last fight against... It was a Sun Sao, right? Yes. So he knocked him out right at the bell. But... yeah, he hits super hard, and he's waiting for that. So I could see that occurring. I could see Font, sometimes he does these like shifting longer combinations where he's walking down his opponent, and I could see Cody watching that and slipping a punch and just cracking him with a big one because he's much quicker, and Font does leave himself exposed when he does that. I think Font's going to have to fight very within himself and choose his moments very wisely when he does decide to go in. I think it would also be very wise of him to shoot a takedown like we saw. I saw, what was the fight? I was watching, it was him versus, I think it might have been Munoz. I think it was the Pedro Munoz fight. It was before he lost that fight, but he was doing really good. And he even shot a takedown on Munoz, I believe. Like right away, before Munoz even shot, which gets the wrestler worried, like, oh, I need to be ready for these shots. Not to say that Garbrandt's the wrestler, but he's a striker, and shooting these takedowns in there will make him second guess things. He'll have to, maybe you pull your head down, he's going to think you're going for a shot, and you just throw the big overhand up top or something else. Or you're stepping in for a body jab or something, he thinks you're going in for a takedown. I don't know. You're gonna get different looks and get holes to come out from that. I think that would be wise of him. Because I can see a reality where, like, Garbrandt comes out and is just too fast. He's just slipping punches, throwing too quickly, countering Font, making him uncomfortable on the feet. And that's harder to fight back from that. So I think rather than get to that position, I think it would be wise of him to get in there, shoot a takedown, maybe just a body lock. You only maybe get him just to the fence, clinch him up. And even if that doesn't get him that worried, it'll slow him down, because he's such an explosive striker and he throws such fast hands. Anything you can do to slow this guy down would be greatly beneficial to Rob Font. I think that could really turn the tide if he's able to get maybe a round or two where he can get some good clinch work in, or inside work. I don't know. Maybe he's able to get him to the ground, just make him carry his weight, get those arms tired. It'd be a very different game on the feet. Easier said than done. Garbrandt, he was a good high school wrestler, and not many people. I've never seen a fight where he's on his back, just unable to get up. He's a pretty solid fighter. He's really good at the distance management, which plays into that. He's very good at he's always pulling back. Sometimes he's a little too skittish. He pulls back. He'll just step back, always creating distance, making the other guy come to him rather than setting down. Some of his fights can play a little longer because of that, play out a little longer. But it plays to his benefit because he's so quick and he's got such sharp eyes. Like in the Dominic Cruz fight, same thing. He's this masterful distance management. Just stayed out of his way, made Cruz come to him, and was able to choose his shots exactly how he wanted them, because the other guy is waiting this long distance trying to reach to him, and then Garbrandt's able to explode and close distance so quickly. So something like that happening I could see as well, where he's pulling Font out, making Font come closer. But I also I see the jab of Font being an issue in that reality, playing out at that long distance. I mean, the calf kick he has will be a good counter for that, but I feel I don't know. I see that jab causing some issues. It's a longer, taller guy. He kind of squats down, bends down a little bit, and usually he tries to get head height from what I see when he's fighting. He bends down a bit. So he's about the same height as his opponent, and he just pumps this long jab out there, and it's a pretty heavy jab as well. It's not a light flicking jab. He really steps into it, and it's a harder punch. And I could see that really giving Garbrandt some guff, That's what I see. I think overall in this fight, if I'm to take a pick on someone here, I would probably take... It's a tough one. I'd probably take Garbrandt, 60% Garbrandt, 40% Font. It's a close fight. I don't think it's going to be a wash by any stretch. But I see the distance management of Garbrandt posing some issues. Unless Font is able to just put him on his back foot and get him uncomfortable, get him bumping into the cage, I just see the speed and the distance management of Garbrandt just posing a heavy issue, and then the risk is so high because he hits so hard as well, and he hits you, and because it's so fast, it's even more effective because you usually don't see it even coming. But I think it'll be a close fight, and I can definitely see Font winning, if, like I said, if he does do some takedowns, or he's able to clinch with him, or just slow him down however he has a plan to do that, slow him down. I can see the fight going his way, because he's a longer fighter. He chooses his shots quite well, at that longer distance. He lands that big right hand, and even as they get inside, he throws that big right hand. He's able to kind of torque his body nice and throw a short right over the top kind of, but I just see Garbrandt being too fast for those boxing combinations, and unless he's able to really put some work in with some kicks, I could see that playing his way. If he's able to throw some kicks, long teeps, even calf kicks of his own to slow down Garbrandt, get him from exploding in and out so fast, that could be really effective. But yeah, I'm probably going to say 60% that Garbrandt is going to win. Maybe it might be 55-45 when I think about it, because Garbrandt also gets pulled into emotional exchanges at times, and he looked better his last fight at not doing it, but he has a history of doing it, you know. And if someone has a history of doing it, they have to fight really hard to not do that. So I don't know. I think if that happens, it's going to be beneficial for Font, you know, if he can pull Cody into an emotional exchange, get him throwing harder than he needs to, tire himself out, slow himself down, overextend himself, leaving holes open for too long. I could see that playing Font's way as well. But based off his last fight, he seems to have done better at that. Against the Sun Sao, who's a pretty tricky fighter, you know. He was not really flustered at any point, didn't get goaded into anything. He kind of just played his game, off the back foot, and he caught him with some big punches, and it worked. So I think I'm probably going to go Garbrandt. And Garbrandt's fought stiffer competition at the top. You know, even though Font, as I look at their records, Garbrandt's 12-3, Font is 18-4. Font has more experience, no doubt, in just fights, but Garbrandt has fought some top level guys. Those 2 fights against Dillashaw, that top level performance he had against Dominic Cruz, I think that those give him a lot. They gave him a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge from those fights, you know. So, and even from that the Pedro Munoz fight, he learned a lot from that. So, I think that whereas Font didn't learn necessarily a lot from his last fight against Moraes. Not to say it wasn't good or anything. That's the best kind of fight you want to have, just getting him out of there quick. But he kind of just did what he does. He gets in there, was throwing his jab, threw a big right hand that wobbled him, and then he dropped him with the jab, I think, or was the other way around. Wobbled him with the jab, dropped him with the right hand after. But yeah, it's kind of what he does, and that. It's not necessarily that you learn that much from that. You learn a lot from losses. I think Garbrandt has learned from his losses based off his last fight. We'll see. We'll see as the day comes. Saturday, who's going to win, but that's what I call on that one. Let's move on to the next fight on the main card. Probably won't talk about this one as long because there's not as much to break into. Yan Xiaonan, I don't know which way you say it. Versus Carla Esparza. Xiaonan is 13-1. Esparza is 17-6. Esparza has more fights. She was the first champion of the strawweight division. She's a good fighter. She is on the feet. She's not super threatening, you know. But she's a good wrestler, and she's quite strong, and she's short and compact. And I could see her giving Xiaonan some issues in that area, clinching up with her, you know, slowing her down a bit. I think either way, this fight is going to go the distance. It's going to go. I don't see this fight getting stopped or ending early, but I could see Carla Esparza winning. You know, just either whatever she's doing, touching her on the feet. Maybe she gets a couple big right hands in, and then just. After slowing her down with some clinch, some takedown work, because I've seen Xiaonan, she has been in danger on the ground. She's solid, you know. She obviously has skills there, but I've seen her in danger. I was watching her fight with Angela Hill, you know, and she almost got herself armbarred and triangled, sitting in Angela's guard. You know, so someone who is more competent in grappling, I think, can put her in some dangerous situations. I think her comfort zone is on the feet, which I could definitely see her just not allowing Carla Esparza to do anything, because she kind of has that, bouncy, quick, explosive in-out style. You know, she hits pretty hard for a strawweight, you know. In that Angela Hill fight, there's a couple times you can see where she hits, and it's kind of whoa. It's like a wake-up call of this is a heavier hitting girl than I normally face. Wasn't anything. It's nothing wild like knockout power, but just she seems to hit a little harder than your average strawweight. You know, she's the taller fighter as well. I think the longer as well. I don't know about that. But that I could see her posing some problems to Esparza just with her normal game plan of just she just throws ones and twos really right down the middle. And she throws pretty hard. She throws some side kicks every now and then. She throws calf kicks. I could just see her doing what she does, just kind of like chopping her up and just hitting her, tagging her, unanimous decisioning her. That's the outcome I see most likely. Like in my brain, I see that playing out probably like 70%. Xiaonan is just gonna keep it on the feet and just like touch her. But I can see Esparza, tiring her out, getting, maybe she just gets on her and her grappling pedigree is just too high, and we just find out when like they touch. She's just a little too strong, knows a little too much, like she's just a little too much technically advanced for Xiaonan, and she's not able to handle it. I could see that being the case, but I also see it. I plan on it, or I see it being hard for Esparza to get in, because I watched her last fight with Michelle Watterson, which it was a good win for her. But one thing that I saw that was it would be a bit worrying for this fight is a lot of times she's just either punching or then she's shooting. She's not punching into her shots, which would work well against Xiaonan. But I see her often just like she's out there at distance. Maybe she's shown like she wants to punch, and then she kind of waits, and then it's like I shoot in, where it would be better to like go in and then shoot in after a punch, like a one, wing a big right hand and then just duck in on a double leg after, or you follow your punches with the takedown. But it often I see just naked takedowns, which I could see Xiaonan just stuffing because she's pretty strong. She is the longer, taller opponent. She has that kind of leverage that she can use with her just body size. So I see it probably being like 70% Xiaonan, 30% Esparza. Not that Esparza can't win. I feel like her route to success is going to be kind of tough unless she's able to really chain things together well and do things that I haven't seen her do in her more recent fights. But, I think this one will be a bit of a slower one. It's going to be maybe a bit of a snoozer. I don't know. We'll see. Neither of these ladies really finish that often, so it's probably going to be a 3-rounder, kind of a back and forth sort of dealio. But we'll move on. We have we have Tafa versus Vandera. What is his name? Is it Justin Tafa? Yeah, it's Justin Tafa. Is it Justin Tafa, Justin Vandera? That would be pretty sweet. Is it Justin versus Justin? I was close. Justin Tafa, Jared Vandera. All right. I think this one, it's going to be like a lot of these heavyweight fights that we see. I don't think we're going to see a lot of crazy technique or skill coming out here. But, two huge dudes that could probably both knock each other out because they hit like a truck. Tafa, I think, is probably going to have the advantage on the feet. But I've seen him overexpose himself before, getting a little zealous. What was the fight? I think it was against, big boy that went and he fought Rosenstruik and got Pessoa. Yes, that's who it was. He got knocked out against Pessoa, getting a little too zealous with the punches, and Pessoa just, ducked that big old head, took the punch on top of his forehead, and came back and just sparked him. So, I could see something like that happening if Tafa gets a little too overexcited again, keeping his hands down, just trying to wing big shots. But the fight I saw of Vandera, it seems like he's a bit more of like he's going to use some of his grappling, maybe wrestling, to get the job done. Tire on Tafa. Maybe he's able to get a takedown, sit on top of him, and just kind of like soften him up for a while. That seems to be what I would expect from him. Maybe he knocks him out. I'm not sure. But yeah, this one I don't think there's going to be... There's not too much to talk about in this one either. This one's a bit of a... Yeah, it's going to be what you expect. Two big lads smacking it out. We do have Felicia Spencer and Norma Dumont after this, which is a pretty decent women's fight all in all. Felicia Spencer's pretty entertaining, as as they come in the women's division. You know, she's pretty unassuming looking, and on the feet, she's not super dangerous. But she's a pretty good freaking grappler, and she manhandles a lot of these girls. Gets on their back. I mean, the one against, what's her name? How are you now? It's the soup. Oh man, I'm losing my mind. Megan Anderson, that's who. Megan Anderson. I'm pretty sure she said it's Megan Anderson, not Megan. But in her fight against Anderson, she just got on her back, flattened her out, and just had quick work with her. Where Norma Dumont had a fight with her as well and got her to like the same position as Spencer, but obviously struggled a lot more. And then like as the fight progressed, I think it was kind of like a long clinch exchange. They broke away, got back to the clinch again, and then Anderson broke away one more time, and then just like sparked her with a right hand and just like dropped her. So I feel like in the grappling exchanges, I think Spencer's going to have the advantage. I think she's probably the better grappler. I don't know. I know MMA math doesn't just work like that. But from what I've seen, I think Spencer is the better grappler. Norma Dumont looked better on the feet in her last fight. You know, she didn't tire out so quickly and just like after that first takedown attempt in a long clinch exchange, she looked like she was dead, like hands down, super tired. She looked better her last fight against I don't know if it was her last fight, but it was the last fight I could see on Fight Pass against Ashley something. I apologize, can't remember the name, but she looked better. She went all 3 rounds. She did not look like a zombie, you know, after the first exchange. But in this one, I foresee Spencer winning. I think if it gets to, you know, if Spencer's able to put her to the fence, either shoot a takedown out on her in the open, I don't know, whatever. I think she's going to be, her pedigree there seems to be pretty high. And I think she could handle Norma Dumont there. On the feet, if it doesn't get to the ground, and if it's kind of like one of those grappler stalemates where they just punch each other and don't ever take it to the ground because neither wants to really test it, I think it could be a much closer fight. It could be like 50-50, really, if it's on the feet like that. But I think if it gets to the ground, Spencer it will be superior there. So because of that, I'm going to lean Spencer on this fight. Probably like 65-70%, you know. I mean, she's only struggled with, was it Nunez? Let me see, I have something. Yeah, she's 8-2. She lost to Nunez and Justino quite a while back, but she's had some good wins. But where Dumont lost to Anderson, you know, as we talked about, Spencer was able to kind of handle her in about the same scenario right on the fence there. She just got on her back and just dogged her. I don't know who fought her first, but you know, it could have been the other way where like maybe she fought Spencer first and then learned how to defend herself better off the back, and that's why Norma Dumont was struggling with her. I don't know, but either way, I'm gonna take Spencer on that one. Then we have David Dvorak. I don't know how you pronounce that last name, versus Raulian Paiva, which will actually be a pretty good fight. You know, it's gonna be a little bit of a scrap, I believe. David Dvorak's last fight against Espinosa, he looked great. Espinosa is a pretty good all-around flyweight. He's got quick. The only knock I could really say is he doesn't really hit that hard, you know. Seems like his strikes don't really affect his opponents that much, but he's got good movement on the feet, really bouncy. Had good anti-wrestling, and Dvorak was able to put it on him, you know. They on the feet, it wasn't just it was pretty competitive. You know, Espinosa was maybe more technical and explosive, but Dvorak was able to keep it long and throw his jabs and work his long right hand, and it was money. And then in the grappling exchanges, David was just superior. he was making Espinosa struggle. I can't recall because I wasn't able to see this fight on Fight Pass, but I watched it live, and I remember just Espinosa being like on his butt against the fence, and Dvorak just kind of like softening him up there, and he was having a tough time getting out. Haulian Paiva he seems to like the stand up. That seems to be where he is most comfortable at. I think he's probably got some solid jiu-jitsu. A lot of these dudes from Brazil know how to do jiu-jitsu pretty well, at least have like a competency there. But he seems pretty comfortable on the feet, and he's got some good knockouts on his record, TKOs. I think he could give Dvorak some issues if he's able to put that power on him, and he feels that like heavy. I don't know I forget if he stands orthodox or southpaw. Either way, his rear hand, he throws heavy, and he's really fluid. He seems like he's very comfortable there. He throws very whippy, fluid punches, the type of punches you see from someone who's very comfortable striking. Whereas Dvorak's a bit more of like that kind of like strengthy, kind of spazzy striking. Not to like say it's bad, but it's like you could tell he comes from more of a grappling background, and then has come to the punches. And he's still pretty good on the feet, right? But there's just it's that difference in like fluidity. This one I think will be pretty interesting. Both these dudes, I think, are gonna put up a good fight. I think because of more of the split threat from Dvorak, where he seems like, not that Paiva is not good on the ground, but it seems like Paiva wants to keep it on the feet and wants to like knock his opponent out, drop him with hands. Whereas Dvorak, he seems fine with doing whatever, like either taking it on the ground or working him on the feet if that's going to be the easier route. And he seems pretty good at both from what I've seen. He hasn't had a lot of fights in the UFC, so can't say. He's had quite a few fights outside of the UFC, in like EFC and some other Northern European kind of that area organizations. I don't know all of them, but he's 19-3. Paiva is 20-3. He had a tough fight. I watched his fight with Bontarine, which was a tough fight for him. I don't think that's going to be super comparable to this matchup, but is this a smaller guy who hit really hard on the feet, and is comfortable on the feet, and then he seemed like the superior grappler on the ground. It seemed like Bontarine was the stronger grappler. At least he was getting these takedowns like a rabid man, picking Paiva up, throwing him down. And the Cara France fight as well, I think that will be a little bit more, that could be kind of applicable to maybe how this fight plays out, because Cara France kind of has similar striking, I would say, to Dvorak, where they both kind of sit more squat, kind of like wrestling minded stances, throwing like long jabs either to the face, good long spearing jabs to the body, looking for that big ducking their head right hand over the top. I could see, so based off that fight and just their kind of tendencies, Paiva's a bit slower, I would say, than Dvorak. Even though he's fluid, he's a bit slower. He sometimes looks a bit like, those guys who are so calm they almost seem tired. That's almost how he is. Whereas Dvorak seems a bit more high energy, like in that fight versus Sandhagen versus Sterling, when Sterling was just like, you could see how amped and like ready he was to roll. I feel like that's kind of like, that's how I see the difference in Dvorak Paiva. But based on all those things, I think probably going to give that one to David. I think it's going to be a close fight, like 60% going to David, and the other 40% chance, I think, to Haulian, because I think he has a solid chance. I think he's got solid enough ground game where he could probably get back to his feet if he needs to, and he has power on his hands where he could hurt David and make him feel uncomfortable on the feet. So, but based on the other stuff that I said about David, I think that he's probably going to take it. And then to kick it off the main card, we have Jack Hermanson versus Edmund Shahbazian which is a pretty sweet fight. I'm pretty sure this was supposed to happen a week or 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure, but I'm excited it's happening now, and I get to see it because this is going to be a good matchup between these two. I wrote a bit more on this one because I think this is a pretty interesting fight. We'll talk about Shahbazian first. He's got 11 wins, 1 loss. He lost to Derek Brunson his last fight. It was a good fight, and he put up a good fight, but it was also kind of like, one of Brunson's better performances in a while, where he fought very reserved and smart on the feet. He did not get over wild and just like put his chin out there like he does and just go wild shooting for takedowns. But he was wise with his takedown shots. He caught Shahbazian when he needed him to. He was able to just kind of bruise and batter him up and softened him up. And I remember that at the end of the second round, he was getting pounded. And then came out the third round, and he obviously was just not ready. He needed more time to recover because he just got wilted right away by Brunson. But I think that was a good fight for him to go through. You learn a lot from a loss like that. Teaches you a lot of things. So we'll see how much he's learned from that and what he'll do differently. Because Jack Hermanson can put him in a lot of those situations that Brunson was able to put him in, with a more comfortable grappler on top of you, softening you up, battering you up, tiring you out, making you just tired, dragging you into those deep waters. Hermanson can do a similar thing, and not necessarily in the same fashion as Brunson, but he's a very good grappler. But we'll get into that a little. We'll talk about Hermanson in a bit. We'll sing some Shahbazian praises. I think in the stand-up, Edmund is going to be the better striker. He seems comfortable there. He throws solid boxing combinations. He hits heavy. I really like the way he leans in and throws on some of these body straights from his rear hand he'll throw. I mean, we all remember the knockout he had over who was it? He fought someone and just threw a fucking beautiful head kick and just sparked him over the top. But apparently he also fought Darren Stewart, which I wasn't able to watch that fight. For whatever reason, it wasn't letting me see it on Fight Pass. But that would have been a really interesting fight. And he was able to pick up the win over him. And Darren Stewart's no joke. He's a tough dude. He also won over Brad Tavares. I think he could pose some issues to Hermanson, and the style of striking he throws. Because Hermanson has shown issues defending against people who throw good straights. Vettori was able to just get in there and just touch him constantly with that straight, that rear hand. He would just lean in and just touch him with it, I could see Shahbazian being able to do that because he has good hands like that. He has the skill to be able to do something like that and just keep popping him down the middle, His kicks are pretty money, and I could see if he's able to work that jab or any of those straights, get Hermanson leaning his head and whatnot, just throwing a head kick up there and just catching him on the lean and boom. Yeah, I could see that happening and in the fight. But we'll talk a bit about Hermanson here. I think Hermanson's going to be the better grappler. He's really good. He chains these takedowns quite well. Has super good control. Against other good grapplers, he is able to just manhandle them, and put them in very uncomfortable situations that you would not expect. Against Gerald Meerschaert, he just had his way with him and made him look like, a novice on the ground, which Meerschaert's pretty freaking good on the ground. Jacare Souza, he put Souza in quite a few dangerous situations. I don't think he finished that fight on the ground, if I recall. I'm pretty sure that one went the distance, but he put Souza in quite a bit of danger. And Gastelum, he got to him really quickly. Gastelum's pedigree of grappling we saw is pretty high. He handled Ian Heinisch, which was a much bigger and stronger wrestler, and just was able to just out scramble him basically. But Hermanson was able to get to Gastelum and just, get to that knee real quick and fucking, ended the fight. That was really quick. He's really dangerous on the ground, and he comes out hot and he comes out fast. He usually does not come out slow. And he's also solid on the feet. I would say he's not as comfortable, and he gets to places against better strikers, like Cannonier and Vettori, where he can be kind of just like repeatedly shooting takedowns because he doesn't want to be striking. He wants to get to the ground. And against someone who, like the Cannonier fight, where it's a guy who was able to stuff these takedowns, who is strong, who was able to like withstand the grappling. You have a tired Jack now on the feet, kind of throwing less sharp, crisp strikes, because he's tired from these takedowns that he hasn't been able to reap the reward and rest off of. And then he started getting touched up on the feet by Cannonier, and Cannonier hit him with that big punch and wilted him. I could see something like that happening if Shahbazian really was like iron walls him in the grappling department or something, just like either with the dangers that make Hermanson not want to shoot, or if he's able to just like, I don't know, get up and just force him to keep working for everything, and then he's able to put those hands on him. We've seen Hermanson wilt before to that. He looked really good in that Vettori fight, he got put in a lot of situations that he maybe would have wilted before, and he fought through, and I'm pretty sure he made the distance on that fight, and it was a competitive fight. Even though Vettori won, it wasn't like he just gave up. He was putting in good work. So this is going to be an interesting one. This one it's a bit harder to call. I'm probably going to go with Jack Hermanson, just because he's more experienced. He's 21-6. He's been through a bit more. I believe he's the older fighter as well. He's got a bit more of that man strength on him, and I could see him being able to put Shahbazian in the similar place that Brunson was able to put him into, just with a superior grappler on top of you, just pounding you, softening you up, tiring you. I foresee that being one of the more likely outcomes of this fight. Yeah. That is what I think. I think it's probably going to be like, I think we'll probably go like, in my brain, I think it's like 65-35 to Hermanson. And that's the main event. We have some interesting prelims. Let me take a look here. I didn't do as much in-depth looking at the prelims, but here we go. We have the featured prelim, Ricardo Hamos versus Bill Algio, which is gonna be a scrap. Hamos is good. He does some dumb things on the feet, like that weird little step. He like steps across himself and then kick. It's like almost like a soccer kick, where you see some soccer players will like step and kick behind their front foot to hit the soccer ball. He'll throw that and try to kick their leg. And it's just not a very strong strike, and you put yourself in a lot of danger. I hope he does not keep doing that, because I do remember him doing that quite a bit when I watched him. But he's really good. I didn't watch a lot of film on him for this one, so I'm a bit dry in my brain on what he does. But I'm pretty sure he's a solid grappler. Who I remember him submitting people, and I could see him doing that to Bill Algio. But Algio's he's a good volume striker. He's got long arms. He finds good openings. I think on the feet it's probably going to be Bill. But, against a good grappler, you never know. I think that's going to be a good fight. We have Ben Rothwell, Chris Barnett after that, which is pretty fun. Big Ben, he's a vet. He's been around a while. He's a giant dude. He's able to stuff takedowns pretty well because he's gigantic. He just kind of throws these really long, heavy hands at you and bruises your face up. But Chris Barnett, I haven't seen him fight in a while, but I do remember watching his grappling match with Yoel Romero, and that was pretty fun to watch. He's a super athletic, big guy. This is going to be a fun fight to see. I don't know how... I think it's probably going to go the distance, but it'll be fun to watch, see what crazy stuff we see from Barnett. We have Court McGee, Claudio Silva. That's going to be pretty good. Claudio Silva, he was on like I don't recall what, but he was on like an 11-fight win streak or something crazy. Something crazy like that. He lost to James Krause, but he was on a tear. He's a good fighter. I think he's still pretty, and even in that fight against James Krause, it wasn't like he got finished. He made it to the distance, and it was a competitive fight. Court McGee is an older fighter. I haven't watched a whole bunch of his stuff. I think the last fight I watched of him was, what's his name? Carlos Condit versus Court McGee. That is what I watched. And he looked okay in that fight. He looked like an older vet who's just a bit slower than he used to be. I think probably Claudio Silva's going to win on that one, but we'll see. Bruno Silva versus Victor Rodriguez. I've seen Bruno Silva fight before. I haven't seen Victor Rodriguez fight before. Silva's a pretty muscly little dude. He's a good grappler, so that'll be fun. We have Josh Coolabao versus Shayleen. Ooh, I can't say this name. I'm not gonna make myself look a fool. But he seems like a new fighter because he doesn't even have a profile picture on here. So I don't know what's gonna be on that one. It's a featherweight fight. Featherweight fights usually be slapping. Yeah, Yancy Medeiros versus Damir Hadzovic. That'll be fun. Yancy Medeiros is a bit long in the tooth now, but he's a good fighter. He puts up good fights. He can stuff a takedown well, and he's always down to throw those hands. Rafael Alves versus Damir Ismagulov. Lightweight bout. I do not know either of these guys. I mean, Alves looks like he's freaking chiseled out of stone. Let's see, what are they? KO, TKO. It seems like Alves is kind of a split threat between the knockouts and the subs. It seems like Ismagulov wants to make it happen by the knockout TKO. So, it seems like what's going to be happening there. That should be fun. Anyway, that's been a while of me prattling on about fights and the whatnot. I plan on releasing a video / pod about me kind of reacting to the fights and what I thought would happen based on what really happened, stuff like that. And I may be doing some just I don't know. We'll do some older fights, or maybe I'll watch and maybe talk about like a grappling event. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Look out for the I'll try to drop it probably like Sunday, Monday reaction to the fights. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoy the fights. Have a great day.